Hello! Welcome back to Ni Malas Ni Santas podcast, episode 2. Today
we're going to be talking about why people can't stop loving Tóxicos and Tóxica culture. Why it's so glamorized nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to be our topic today.
Well, this is part 1.
Yeah, this will be part of like a series.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's see.
Stories to tell. Okay, so what does Tóxico and Tóxica culture mean? So I got a little snippet of a definition. So it says, toxic culture refers to an unhealthy or harmful environment, typically in a workplace, community, relationship, or society where negative behaviors are common and accepted. And these behaviors include manipulation, control, bullying, harassment, lack of respect, empathy, gossip, backstabbing, punishing honesty, favoritism, or discrimination.
Mm-hmm. Wait, did it say family or just?
Well, it can be like in anything. So it can be like relationship wise, it can be friendship wise, it can be work wise, it can be family. I think family is it's a very toxic cycle too. So maybe I could relate and just like anything and everything. Everyone. Nadie se salva. We dealt with it tóxico.
See, well, I've never been in a relationship, but somehow, some way, I still. Wait, off track. Shout out to everybody that's been supporting us.
Yes.
And liking our posts and everything.
We
And
appreciate
to everybody I give stickers to. Okay, anyways.
As they were saying.
So
yeah. You've never been in a relationship, but you've dealt with toxic people.
Mm-hmm. I think like men. Well, yeah, like you said, family, work.
Mm-hmm. I think I've dealt with all of it. I feel like I've been in relationships before, unhealthy relationships, toxic relationships, but also like situationships that were really toxic too. Mm-hmm. So I think I can relate on this. But I think if you would ask me in the past, I think for me it would have been normal, like to deal with someone like that. Yeah. Like it's so normalized nowadays that it just seems like an everyday thing. Like it's okay to act like that towards someone or treat someone that way.
I mean, especially with like social media and everything going on too.
See that all the time on social media, which is that's the shitty part. Mm-hmm. So why do you think it's so tempting, or why do you think it's so attractive?
I just feel like people want to relate to that type of thing. Like if you have friends, like obviously you'll be like you're dumb for staying there, but then part of you is like, oh shit, like I want to deal with that. I'm just kidding.
You're not kidding. No, I think if you would ask me a few years ago, I think I would have been way more attracted to that. And like to me, it was kind of like that's how they showed that they cared. Mm-hmm. And I think when you've only been with toxic people, you don't know any better. That there's like a different type of love out there. There's there's someone out there that'll actually show you how you should be taken care of and loved and all the things.
Treated.
And yeah, correct. All like just treat you as a person, because I feel like when people are being treated that way, you really don't really give a shit about them. Mm-hmm.
Well, like an example too. Well, not an example, but like obviously we'll talk or whatever. Like I'll tell her my stories.
Yeah.
And she's already, you're in a healthy relationship too, so it's like my take on things is completely different from yours.
I think it's a completely different take now that I'm in a healthy relationship with someone that genuinely cares about me and generally values me and treats me the way that I want to be treated and the way I deserve to be treated.
Mm-hmm.
Versus if you would have asked me a year ago, I would have had a completely different take because I had before that was only toxic, you know, relationships or toxic situations,
Mm-hmm.
and
Like, provide an example. Like, from my perspective, I say
mm,
it's like outside of your
mm,
guys'
mm,
relationship. Like, you guys are okay with letting each other go out, like girls' night, boys' night, whatever, and it's not a big deal.
mm-hmm.
And I feel like for you in the past,
Yeah, that
what
wasn't the
that would
case.
have been an issue.
Yeah, I think I had been dealing with someone for, I want to say maybe like close to 2 years. It wasn't a relationship, but it was a situationship. And I was dealing with someone for about 2 years and um, never gave me a title, but still wanted me there and wouldn't let me, like, I guess just be, like, he didn't want to be with me, pero no me soltaba.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was like that type of situation. But he never spent time with me. So at that point, I was like in my partying phase. So
Mm-hmm.
I was out and I would get screenshots of like me being out, be like, ¿Quién te dio permiso? And I'm like, who the fuck?
Who do you think you are?
Like, who are you to tell me I can't go somewhere when you don't want to spend time with me? You don't want to give me a title and you don't want to actually treat me the way I deserve. Like, yeah, I'm going to be out with my friends.
Mm-hmm.
Or I would have situations where his friends would be like at somewhere I would be at and they would tell him like where I was, who I was with, what I was wearing, like all those things. And
Mm-hmm.
I would get text messages like, you know, bitching at me. And I'm like,
And he was doing the same thing. Like, he was going out too, and you weren't telling him anything, or he was just.
he wouldn't go out as much as I did, that's for sure. But like if he did, I never said anything, like because you're not my man.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know,
Yeah.
I think that was a crazy time in my life. Like just I think being in the relationship that I am now, seeing everything that I let slide
Mm-hmm.
and I tolerated for a really long time is just crazy to me because now that shit would not slide
Yeah.
whatsoever. There's no way in hell. And so I'm just kind of like I was really stupid.
Dude, I can kind of relate to like that situation that you had
Yeah.
because when I first was talking to acá mis ojos,
Uh-huh.
el amor de mi vida, dice,
Uh-huh.
well, we were talking or whatever,
Mhm.
and I don't think very few people know this. But the very first time we hung out a few times before,
Mhm.
but like, yeah, it was like a few months that we were talking, and he had gotten a hotel.
Mhm.
And the plan was to stay at the hotel, right?
Mhm.
And that same night there was an event in Marielas.
Mhm.
Y este salió con que no se podía quedar porque sus
And he
papás.
was there.
Hold on, wait.
Oh.
Es que según, oh, my parents no me dejan quedarme aquí, da, da, whatever. He's like, it's because I'm the youngest, da, da. Like, trying to make me feel like bad about his
Mhm.
situation. And I was pissed. So this man goes, takes me back home. Like, I was pissed.
Yeah.
Me dejó en la puerta, or no, we got to the parking lot, like where you park.
Mhm.
And me dejó ahí, and he's like, I'm gonna walk you up to the front. I didn't say anything. So he followed me to my door. And I think he was carrying my blanket. And I like walked in my house and I just looked at him and he was gonna say something and I just slammed the door. So I go in my room, mad as hell. And lo and behold, my friends were at that event and she's like, why is he here? And I was like, what the fuck do you mean, why is he here? Y resulta que they went up to him, they're like, they told him, they're like, where's Noemi? It's like, okay. And I was like,
That's
bet.
crazy. That went para mí because I would have pulled up.
For real. He's lucky that I was the first one the type.
Um, that's insane.
Mm-hmm.
But like, why do people tolerate that? Like,
Because I guess like the first few months, it's like the honeymoon phase or whatever they
and
say.
they love bomb the shit out of
Yeah.
you. Mm-hmm.
And then you're like, whatever. But my dumbass.
Yeah, it's they love. I think it's the love bombing, and I don't think you realize it's happening
Mm-hmm.
until after. Like until after the fact, you caught feelings. Like you're in too deep, and you're like, damn, they really like got my ass good, you know? Because I think same, like, con este. I need a nickname for him, but he love bombed the shit out of me. And worst part, y'all wanna know some tea? He was married. Like, he was married, get separated and getting divorced, right? But they all say that. And still wouldn't leave me alone. Even after I was just like, dude, I don't want anything to do with it, you know? But love bombed me so hard to thinking it was going to be something more than what it really was. And then, obviously, from the jump, didn't say he was married. From the jump, he didn't say any of that. He just said he was single.
Were your friends telling you, like, that it wasn't good for you? Or they just didn't say anything?
I think in the beginning, they really didn't comment on it because I think out of embarrassment, I didn't want to say what was really going on, you know? And so but then once they started noticing, like, that the text when I was out, the being watched, the, like, you know, all that stuff, they were like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, why are you still with him? Like, why are you still talking to him? Why? But at that point, like I said, I was in too deep where I had already caught feelings. And I think it was the fact that he didn't want me. I wanted him more because he didn't want me.
Oh, that's the one. That's the one. You want me, you can't have.
Exactly. And I was like, de que lo tengo. And I'm like, why am I so stupid? Because there's no reason that I should have, like, entertained it for as long as I did. There's no reason I should have, you know, like, nothing. And, like, he would even get to the point, no, I mean, I kid you not, like, he would disrespect me so much to the point where, like, sometimes he would work around where our job, and he would see our coworkers walking and be like, oh, who's that? Like, who is that? And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? And be like, oh, para un amigo. And I'm like,
yeah, okay.
You fucking liar. Like, you're so disrespectful. And I did that shit one time back, and he got so pissed. And I'm like, y'all can't take what you dish out.
Te llevas y no te aguantas. No, but the same thing with me. Well, not like that, but in public, this motherfucker sees me, doesn't say hi, but he'll go and say hi to my friends.
Or message you after.
Make it make sense.
Yeah.
Like, how come you're so bold to say hi to them while I'm standing right there, but you see me, won't say anything to me?
Oh, that's happened to me. It just, like, it blows my mind that, to be honest, like, it's quote unquote normal because we see that. Like, we see that in social media, we see that on TikTok, you see it on Instagram. Like, people think it's entertaining, but it's really unhealthy. Like, really, really unhealthy.
Well, yeah, especially with people who are nosy and they're like, oh shit. Like me.
Yeah, I think it's just like the drama is really exciting to some people. And I will say I was one of those people. But I didn't realize that I was one of them until I got into a healthy relationship. Because when I first started dating my boyfriend, we don't fight. You know, like, it's very rare that we get into an argument, and if we do, it's over something so stupid. Like, it is like the smallest thing, you know, like, it's never anything that serious. But when we first started dating, I thought it was, like, boring. You know, I'm like, why are we fighting? But that's what we're used to. You're used to fighting because the drama feels exciting to people. But you know,
well, that's how I am. I'm like, when it was a few months ago, I had posted on my Instagram notes. I was like, I'm in the mood to fight. Yes, acá mis ojos. It's because I don't want to name drop. But somebody that I met in Mexico.
Okay.
You know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
He replied, he's like, okay, let's argue then. And I was like, okay. So él también, ¿para qué me sigue?
Y tú también, que le dices, okay.
Well,
I can't. Like, but I think that also goes back into like, it's familiar. And so it's a pattern that you keep repeating because it's so familiar.
Like you said at the beginning of your relationship, you're like, why aren't we fighting?
Yeah. Because that's all I was used to, you know? And not saying that like all my relationships were toxic, because I did have some really good, relationships in my early 20s. But I would say after I had two relationships that I would say were somewhat not the healthiest, but they weren't like always fighting. But I think after that, every kind of person that I was either with or I dated, it was always toxic. So it kind of created a pattern for me that that's all I was going for. It was always, always, always toxic. I think, to them, to red flags, to the guys, they feel like they have power over you and they have the control in whatever situation you guys are in. I think that is really what it is for them. I think they just want the power.
Yeah, and to like basically like threaten you, be like, oh, do this, da, 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 I'm gonna leave you or whatever.
And you don't want them to leave you. So you're like, okay, same thing. Because we're dumb. Also, I think toxic situations create a cycle. Same thing that we're talking about, the up and down, the cycle, the constant thing of going back and forth. It kind of mimics like an addiction in a way. Like the up and down, that it's the same thing. And it does become a point, because I have seen girls in toxic relationships, long-term toxic relationships, that won't leave because it's just like addictive to them. Like the person is addictive to them. And that's not healthy either.
Or even if they're in the relationship and they like get out of it or whatever, they get like withdrawals. They're like, oh, I need it back.
Yeah. Like when you go no contact with them, like, and then you're like, oh, I need to message them. Like, no, you don't.
Or como alguien acá.
Sí, cuando se empeda. Horrible. Now I am the voice of reason. I will not let her call anyone, because no, absolutely.
Where were you on Sunday? Because that's what I was doing.
At home. In my bed with my boyfriend.
Watching my stories.
Watching her stories. I wish that upon you. Because the piece is unmatched. It's great.
Hopefully.
One day.
Yeah, it would be. Not today, though. But
any good social contenders have to go through me first. But also, I think these men do this thing, and I think same for women. I don't think it's just men that are toxic. I think there's some very toxic women out there, and I've seen it firsthand. There's some crazy bitches out there. Not name dropping anything, but I think a lot of people act this way because they're trying to avoid being vulnerable with someone. Because when you're with somebody and you're developing a relationship and you're trying to create something healthy, it's very vulnerable, and you have to open up and accept your flaws and what you're good at and what you're not good at and what you can bring to the table and what you need to work on, not only like in your everyday life, but internally. Like it can bring up a lot of things. I think emotionally, I think it'll bring up a lot of things. And I will say, like, for me, with my relationship, it did bring up a lot of things. And there's still a lot of things that I need to work on. Um, but I work every day to be a better woman, to be a better girlfriend, to be a better friend. It forces you to see what you're lacking and what you need to work on, and kind of be like, bitch, get your shit together. And it really has, because I think within this last year, I feel like I've changed a lot, and I've grown as a woman, And I've had to, I've had many internal battles that I've had to deal with, but a lot of people are not ready to do that work or to be vulnerable with someone and to open their heart and to really just, I think, work on themselves. Like
Mm.
it's a lot of work. A relationship is a lot of work.
Yeah, but I feel like it also has a lot to do with like how they grew up too, like
Mm-hmm.
their childhood and like
It
trauma
has
that they
a
have. Yeah,
big,
and then depending if their parents are like divorced or if they're together,
yeah.
because seeing that or like seeing how your parents were growing up, you're like, oh
Mm-hmm.
shit, like it could go either way. Like you want to be like your parents. Like there's couples who've been married for
Mm-hmm.
a lot of years, and
Mm-hmm.
then there's divorced parents, and like, well, like for us, both of our parents are divorced.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my parents got divorced. They got separated when I was 2, but they got divorced when I was like 5 or 6. And I really didn't grow up with my dad. And I think typical girl with daddy issues,
Mm-hmm.
like my dad wasn't really that present. Like I have so much love for my dad, but he really wasn't like the father figure that I should have had. And I think
Mm-hmm.
because of that, it showed a lot in my relationships and what I didn't know any better of how I should have been treated. So I was letting these men treat me a certain type of way because I didn't know any better.
Yeah.
I didn't know that there were people out there or that there was someone out there that would genuinely love me for me, flaws and all.
Mm-hmm.
And it's probably like the most beautiful thing that you could feel from someone, but it's really hard because then I think I'm myself, I'm very hard on myself because why did I allow so many people to treat me like shit?
Yeah.
You know? And it's hard. But once again, being in a healthy relationship makes you be that like vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
And but a lot of people see as this toxic cycle as all fun and games when it's really not. You're really fucking with somebody's life.
And it's mentally draining
It's
too.
extremely draining. I think being with someone that's toxic and that treats you like that is extremely draining. And it not only reflects like your emotional state, your psychological state, it can affect like the way you're eating, if you're exercising, it can affect you at work, it can affect you in so many, and not only just in your it affects your relationship, but it can affect your friendships too.
Oh yeah,
It
100%.
being friends with somebody that's in that toxic relationship is not only draining just on that person, but it's draining for the people that care about you and that are seeing you go through these things.
Mm-hmm.
It's but I just don't agree with how it's portrayed on social media. There's a lot of people that are like, "Oh my god, la tóxica me pega. Así quiero una." And I'm like, "That's not okay." Like that's really not okay.
Yeah. I said, but I'm joking.
But you see like a lot of like les gusta la mala vida.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it is. It's sad to me.
Yeah.
It's sad to me, but if you would have asked me before, I wouldn't have. Um, I also don't agree with people taking being toxic as their personality trait,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's like, friendship or that's just me. I'm just being real. Like,
All
no,
right.
bitch, no, you're not. You're being toxic. Like, there's a lot of you could say one thing many different ways without being toxic. Like, I can easily just, if I need to address something to you, I can address it in a nice way. You know, I guess understanding your feelings, taking those feelings into account,
Mm-hmm.
and not trying to hurt your feelings versus I'm just being honest, I'm just blunt, you know?
Well, yeah, like the
Yeah.
feeling thing too, because you don't know if you're telling somebody and they're super sensitive slash emotional. Like, think before you speak.
Hmm.
¿Le ves la cabecita que tienes aquí? Tu, ¿cómo se llama? Cerebro.
Yeah.
Úsalo.
Yeah, I don't know. Like it really bothers me because I think I try to be as understanding of a friend as I can be. And don't get me wrong, sometimes things just come out. I blurt things out and it's like
Yeah, but
word
the
vomit, you
difference
know?
between you and like a toxic person, you say shit how like you say it to somebody
Needs to hear it.
yeah, that. A toxic person's just gonna like say it with no like remorse or anything.
Yeah. Yeah,
So it's
because
like,
I have been in those situations where I've said something that needed to be said, and maybe my delivery is not the best, but I also feel like when I know maybe I didn't say it the best way, I take accountability and I will apologize
yeah, because I feel
for.
like if you were a toxic person, you would just say whatever
Mhm.
without apologizing or anything.
Yeah,
Like,
I'm working on it. But once again, those are toxic cycles that you have to break
yeah.
because that's all I know. I think I think it's kind of like all meshes because like my mom, God bless her, I love her, but my mom is very blunt and she's very straightforward. Y a veces no se mide how she says things, and I definitely feel like I learned that from her, but I'm trying to unlearn those patterns because I don't want to hurt people's feelings when I say what I need to say. I want to say things in an empathetic way where they're going to receive my message with open arms versus she's just being a bitch and I don't want to hear what she has to say, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm working on it. I have had my moments where I've said things that maybe came off the wrong way, but I think nothing that I say is ever with bad intention. It's always with good intentions. And I always take accountability when I've said something that I shouldn't have said or I said it the wrong way. And I think that's a big thing. I think people need to be held accountable.
100%.
Toxic people need to be held accountable. You know, I think.
So if Mel comes at you, don't take it the wrong way. Well, it depends who you are, actually.
Some of you take it the wrong way. Yeah, I think, yeah. It just makes it makes being around toxic people makes your self growth harder. It kind of puts you in a rut where you're stuck until you know. And I've seen so many girls that like were in toxic relationships and then they leave that person and then they just flourish into like amazing women. Not that they weren't amazing before, but to their potential, like, and it's so beautiful to see because fuck that man, honestly.
Well, yeah, because you can even tell, like, or when, like, on TikTok when they post or whatever, when they were in the relationship
versus when they're not.
Yeah, like the guy's like dimming her light and like.
Yeah, I think don't ever let a guy dim your light, ever,
Ever.
ever,
Ever.
I've been there, I've dealt with that, and it's not fun to be with someone that dims your light. I think one of the hardest relationships that I've been in, that'll be for a different episode. But they dimmed my light so much, and the moment I left that relationship, I was like a whole new person. It was insane. And I didn't just feel like a whole new person, but like people told me, like, you look different, you look happier, you look, I was striving in my life. I was traveling, I was out, I was doing everything that I wanted to do that I couldn't do while I was with that person. And it was great. So,
as you should, queen.
If this is your sign, if this isn't your sign to leave them, leave them
right now.
Mm-hmm.
Get your phone and hello.
Okay, we're done. Bye. So we're kind of gonna go into like the psychology behind the glamorization, just to kind of explain why people kind of put up with it or deal with it or are the way that they are. We're gonna talk, trauma bonding, attachment styles, things like that. But first one will be familiarity breeds comfort. People are drawn to what feels familiar. So we kind of already talked about this. If someone grows up in like a chaotic or emotionally unstable environment, home, family, um, that's all they know. So
Mm-hmm.
they stick to what they know. They don't know that there's anything better out there.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I have an example. Well,
Go ahead.
I want to say anything. It's an example, but one time, well, this is like a very sensitive topic.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to go too much into detail because it's not my story to tell.
Yeah.
But when my siblings, my younger sibling and my two older siblings, we don't have the same dad because we
Okay.
have the same mom.
Mm-hmm.
So my mom was with their dad 1st,
Mm-hmm.
and she was in an abusive relationship
Mm-hmm.
with him. And then my sister también
Mm-hmm.
le tocaba relationships like that too.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't remember if it was, I think it was my younger brother. That
Mm-hmm.
shit. Punch it when I see him. But he was like, there was a point where, like, I don't know who we were talking about, like what relationship it was. But my brother's like, you're next to me. And I was like,
That's fucked
you?
up.
And he's like, well, yeah. He's like, if you see that they dealt with that, he's like, you're probably going to deal with it too. And I was like, mm-mm. I said, God forbid
Mm-hmm.
that ever happens to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, if anything, I got a scary ass brother who will
Mm-hmm.
fucking track him fucking down and
Mm-hmm.
probably kill him. I don't know. My dad también, but
Yeah.
yeah, I was like, ah.
That kind of relates with It Ends With Us.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I watched that movie twice, like three
Me too.
times.
Well, it's on Netflix. I watched
Yeah.
it like
And I
more
read
times.
and I read the book, but I think we went to go watch it together for the first time.
Bad
And
experience.
horrible experience, but that's a whole different story. But um while abuse is not just physical, it's emotional, it's psychological as well. And for any people that have actually watched that movie, I think you realize that she was creating this kind of scenario in her head that he could never do that to her.
Mm-hmm.
When in reality, he was doing it to her, but he was manipulating her to believe that it wasn't happening. And that happens with like a lot of relationships, whether it's, physically abusive, mentally abusive, emotionally abusive, you want to see the best in the person that you're with.
Mm-hmm.
And you want to believe that someone that loves you is not going to treat you that way. And it's not going to harm you in any way. And that's not really the case. It's hard because it's hard to open your eyes when, you know, that's going on in a relationship. But in the movie and in the book, Lily grew up in an abusive household.
Yeah.
Her dad used to hit her mom. And so that's all she knew. And same thing, she would always say, like, that's never going to happen to me. I'm never going to allow that. But then it happened to her. And it's like the cycle where she made excuses for him because she didn't know any better. I think
Mm-hmm.
the good thing about the movie and the story and the moral of the movie is that she leaves. She does leave him. As much as she loves him and as much as it hurts her, she leaves him because she doesn't want to continue that cycle for her daughter.
Yeah.
And I think that's big a big thing that it's breaking those patterns. Um, that you're used to, breaking the patterns of what you've been around and what you've seen and what you know when they're not good for you. But a lot of times it's recognizing that it's not good for you. And that's the hard part. If
Mm-hmm.
someone's not recognizing that it's not good, it's game over. They're going to stay.
Well, like, going with that, Catherine was saying I guess how she felt like numb and like empty. And it wasn't like realizing like, what was going on. Pero
Another one is um, the social validation. And I think a lot of that gets attention, gets laughs, gets admiration, a
mm-hmm.
lot of likes, a lot of comments of being toxic. It's funny to people, but it's funny to people that have never been in that situation.
Yeah, or they're not going through it yet.
That's when they think it's funny.
No laughing.
No laughing. It's not funny. Don't like those things. Don't repost those things. Don't comment on those things because it's just it's not funny. It's not like it's not healthy. And if you think being in a toxic relationship or being toxic towards someone is good, stay away. Te toca.
What? Power and control.
You said.
It's because I'm trying to read. I can do that fucking blind.
She ever her glasses today?
No.
You
No, the other one didn't either.
You want me to read it?
Yeah, read it. Pretend I'm reading.
Okay, the third one is going to be power and control. Toxic behavior often gives people a sense of control in relationships or social dynamic. Being the one who doesn't care more, or dominating a situation or playing games feels powerful. Goes back to the same thing. They want to feel like they have a power over you. The fact that they can just kind of manipulate and you come and go as they please gives them a sense of power, and they're going to continue doing it as long as they feel like they have the power.
Especially if they know that they have you wrapped around. I'm gonna do this. Or like examples like if una pareja's in a relationship and like let's say the guy like goes out or whatever, y la vieja no dice nada, he's gonna be like, oh, like in the future he's gonna think it's okay to go out and do whatever he wants because the girl no dice nada. And then yeah, when this girl realizes it,
it's gonna be like, too late. Yeah. She allowed it for too long. Yeah. No. From the beginning, no.
Put your foot down.
Put your foot down, you put your boundaries, and you decide what you're gonna allow and what you're not going to. Next one will be emotional addiction. Toxic relationships create a cycle of dopamine and cortisol, the brain's chemicals linked to pleasure and stress. Very, very, very true. An emotional roller coaster feels addictive, and the pain of conflict makes the reconciliation feel more intense. This causes a trauma bond. So just the constant up and downs, the fighting, it's same thing as being an addict. You're going up and down, up and down, up and down. The highs are very high, but the lows are very low. And these people are addicted to the highs of, when they make up, everything's all good. But how long is it going to be good for?
Yeah, how long is it going to last? You could be happy in the morning, yeah, por la noche andan bien peleados. Not talking to each other. Me.
The fantasy of a toxic relationship. Watching toxic characters or glorifying toxic behavior allows people to live out fantasies of being bold, reckless, or dominant without any consequences. Example, telenovelas. I think a lot of us Latinas grew up watching novelas, and a lot of the times there were some really toxic characters in there. Like I just watched I just rewatched Lo que la vida me robó. Have you ever watched that one? No, it's with Sebastián Rulli and what's her name? The girl that plays Teresa. I forget her name. I know her as Vico from Rebelde, but I can never remember her name for the life of me. But anyways, and the novela, it starts in like such a toxic relationship. She basically, she's in love with this man, and he's poor, and the mom doesn't, I guess, accept it, and the mom marries her off to a wealthy guy, but the guy doesn't know that she's in love with somebody else. Like he's actually genuinely interested in her and like actually genuinely cares about her, and she, like the mom manipulates her to think that like they all think different things, but they end up getting married. and he catches the girl with the love of her life at the beach the day of their wedding, and it turns into like this whole thing, and he
Wait, she
becomes
was with the poor guy?
yeah.
Oh.
The day of their wedding, she was gonna like escape with him, and
Hey.
the husband catches her, and he turns extremely like abusive. Like he basically like grabs her, puts her in a car, takes her to an hacienda, and like locks her there, and like she has no communication with nobody. Like he isolates her from everybody, like her family, her parents, her brother, her friends. Like she has no communication with anybody, and she has no way out. And it turns into a really really abusive because he's a very jealous guy, and when he gets jealous, he kind of his jealousy really takes over. And I know there's a lot of girls that can relate with really jealous men
Mm-hmm.
that are very like overpowering. And he basically does this for like the whole novela of going back and forth. Like when she gets pregnant, he basically calls her a whore and thinks that it's not his when it is his. And she's in love at this point, she's in love with him. And so she's putting up with all um his abuse and everything that he because she loves him and she wants the family, she wants her family,
Mm-hmm.
but he basically kicks her out, leaves her with nothing
Ah,
her whole pregnancy. And then after, oh, and also he goes with some other girl while she's pregnant and like goes and travels the world with her,
right.
and then comes back and was like, "Oh, maybe it is my baby." And then they like get back together. But it's like this novela shows this cycle of him getting jealous, treating her like shit. She's upset. She forgives him. They get back together. They break up. Like it's just like this constant cycle. And these are novellas that we were watching when we were young.
Mm-hmm.
So this is what we're seeing on TV. This is what is being put into our brains.
Oh, it's okay.
It's okay. He loves her. He's jealous because he loves her. Absolutely the fuck not. You know?
Mm-hmm.
Like I think a little bit of jealousy like is okay.
Well, yeah, it's like
It's
normal.
normal. Like, you obviously I don't want any bitch around my man. Like they're duh.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a certain level. I'm not about to go run him over with a car. Like I'm not about to go do that. Like, there's only certain things that I will tolerate more than I will do. But I think growing up, we kind of seen this with all these novelas, with Ruby, with Teresa, with this one. We grew up with all these examples that this is how we should be treated.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, there's
Yeah,
like,
because I don't think like that's I mean, well, like
mm,
what would soap operas
yeah,
in English?
yeah.
Because they've never had that. Like
I mean,
they're like,
there's soap operas, right?
but like that I can think of that were like that toxic
Yeah,
to
I
the
would
ones that we would
never.
watch.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever watched an English soap opera, to be honest with you. Um, so I wouldn't be able to tell you firsthand. But a lot of
Mm-mm.
the novelas are
No, I
there's a
not
lot
seen.
of toxic shit in there.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot. Like there's another character in that novela where the husband married this girl and she was like super sweet and she was like super in love with him and he wanted nothing to do with her. He beat the shit out of her in the novela. Like in the novela, like you could see him like literally beating the shit out of her.
Mm-mm.
And I'm like, as an adult, this that I watched it, I was like, it was hard to watch for me. Like I watched and I was like, how were we watching this at a young age? Like it fucks you up.
Or like our
So
parents being okay with like letting us watch that. Or
that too.
another example too, the whole case that's going on right now with P Diddy
Yeah.
and Kathy.
Yeah, people just
Right.
sat there and watched that shit happen.
The hotel video
Yeah.
or whatever.
That's insane. Um, but that goes back to cultural reinforcement. In some Latino cultures, toxic behaviors are normalized and even romanticized. Jealousy is a proof of love, and machismo or drama is seen as passion, not dysfunction.
Mm-mm.
I we're instilled these beliefs at a young age that machismo is okay.
Yeah.
That's just a really toxic, insecure man. You know, these novelas show us this dysfunction and that it's passion, not that it's toxic or unhealthy.
For
It's insane. Like like when you look back at them, I'm like, really shouldn't have been watching these novelas at the age that I was watching them.
Should have been watching caricaturas.
I should have been watching Teletubbies or some shit. Like that's not what I should have been watching, you know. But I love sitting there watching a novela and waiting the next day to watch the next episode. Like that was my shit. But I really shouldn't have. But I guess the downside of all of this, people don't realize that there's real consequences to these actions. You know, I think we kind of already touched on it, but like burnout, whether it's emotional, physical, you know, you're damaging the relationship, you're damaging yourself, you're damaging the person that you love. Um, and I think glamorizing it is kind of making it okay. It leads to ignoring everything. It leads to ignoring the red flags. It leads to ignoring the signs of when you should leave. But with that being said, we're going to give you guys kind of like how to recognize and break free from these toxic relationships. I was just checking.
Shout out Rao. Rao, if you see this,
we love you.
We're gonna kidnap you one day.
They're gonna use that against us. Okay. But
he'll have the time of his life with us. I don't want to hear it.
Yeah, we're fun. We're a good time. But I guess we're gonna talk about spotting toxic glamour versus healthy passion. So a toxic glamour is kind of more intensity in a relationship that drains you, that makes you kind of emotionally just done with everything, versus healthy, it's energy that uplifts you. It makes you happy, it makes you motivated, it just gives you like a better sense in life. The next
one. For la segunda, it says constant jealousy / control. Like, you can't go out, you can't wear this, you can't wear that. Who are you talking to, going through each other's phones. Versus healthy is trust and communication. Because el que quiere ganar la llave volado, he's going to do it regardless. Or como dijo Kevin, if he has time to go to the bathroom, he has time to cheat.
That's crazy. But
no, but trust and communication is super, super, super.
Yeah.
Super.
I think it's very important. Next one is going to be emotional chaos is seen as excitement versus stability equals peace. So a lot of times when the fighting, the drama, the ups and downs, it seems as like a emotional roller coaster, as excitement as, oh, this is great, when really some sense of stability should bring you peace in your life. You want that peace, you want that calmness in your life. You don't need the ups and downs, you know? And a lot of people kind of mix up the two.
See? And then el otro dice, we fight because we care. It's toxic. No. Versus we talk because we care. Well, yeah, going back to the communication.
Communication's a big thing. And I will say I learned that in this current relationship. Like I said, we don't really fight like that. When we do have small arguments, we really do make it a point to communicate with each other, to talk things out and say what we need to say and just leave it on the table and come to a resolution and move forward from it. I don't think fighting all the time really is healthy, you know? Like you should have fun with your partner and have you know, stability and the peace, and it shouldn't always be a fight. You know, you should be able to talk through things.
Yeah, like no gana nada with fighting.
Yeah.
And raising your voice at your significant other.
Yeah. There's just no, like, for me, that's a no-no. But if you would have asked me in the past,
see,
I would fight. I would argue. I would, be loud. I would, but you, with the right person, you learn um, those things. You learn better sense of communication. Um, not going to sleep mad. You know, talking things out before they become bigger, or you start being passive aggressive towards each other. It's not healthy.
Yeah.
You shouldn't always be arguing. And the last ones is highs and lows feel addictive versus connection feels consistent. So same thing, emotional roller coaster, it goes ups and downs. People are addicted to those highs and lows. But if you're really in something with somebody that you should be in and it's a healthy connection, you're going to feel that all the time.
Yeah.
You're going to feel it consistently. You don't have to wait for you to make up for it to be, oh, I feel good again. You should always feel good.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, going back to that too, like you're fighting, like that drains your whole mood. And like you're like, let's say you're trying to talk to your friends, and you're just like out of it, and they're gonna be like, "What the fuck? Like,
why are you acting like that?" And I mean, it's hard not to be like that when you get in like an argument with your significant other, or like a little fight or whatever. It will drain you, but when it's a consistent thing, you know it's hard because you're not yourself.
Well, some people that we know, like, cada rato está peleando con el novio, and we can all sense it. And it's like, why do you want to like drain? Like, she's draining our vibe and our energy too. So it's like, if she's in a bad mood, then it puts us in a bad mood, and it's like, why would you want to do that?
Yeah, I think people don't realize that your vibes and your ups and downs can really bring down the people around you. Because I know the rare, even before like my relationship, when I would be fighting, um you could tell my mood changes, and I'd be kind of like, like I wouldn't want to be anywhere, like I just wasn't in a good mood because I like to be stupid. But I think in this last year, I don't think there's very rare occasions when you've ever seen me like in a bad. And if I'm in a bad mood, it's definitely not in my relationship. It's probably some other stupid shit, But like relationship wise, it's nice. It's nice, but but it's you. It really drains people around you, like hardcore. Red flags disguised as romance. Love bombing.
Hey.
Too much too soon. She has a story for that. Go ahead, girl. Spill your tea.
Wait, does it fall to the second one too?
Your mind and no one else's. Yep. Guilt tripping and testing loyalty all of as games. I have a story too, so go ahead.
Where should we begin? A year ago, around this time.
Yeah.
Anyways, so
West Coast boy.
Yeah.
Yes. You know what's crazy? Is that my boyfriend makes fun of me because I do this.
It's the way that we were talking about.
Exactly. Okay, thank you. I'm going to clip that because...
Yes, understand.
Go ahead.
So, it was the week of Memorial Day, because you had just got back from Sueños, and I had gotten a request from somebody, and I was like, who is this? And we had some mutuals, and I was like, so I screenshotted his profile, and I sent it to one of my good friends at the time. And I was like, hey, who is this? He's like, I don't know. He's like, I just have people on Instagram. And I was like, great. So, I don't know. Oh, I think I had posted Cali in October. And he replied and was like, no vienes. And I was like, I am. And then he started talking to me from there. And like going back and forth, whatever. My first red flag, I should have been like, because he had asked me who I was going with, and I told him, and then he was like, "Oh, or were you guys gonna stay?" And I was like, "I don't know. We still have to figure it out because it was still May. We weren't going until October." And he was like, "Oh, aquí te quedas conmigo," and I was like, "Not even like 2 days." And I was like, "Bruh." Anyways, me ignoring red flags. So then I want to say like a week or two after that, that's when the flip. I mean the switch.
You flip the switch.
Oh yeah.
The flip.
We've been up since 6 a.m. I can't. Anyways, he just started being like toxic. I remember we went to the gym, and if you follow me, you know that sometimes I'll post the pump or whatever. And he was like, "What did he say?" He was like,
basically talking shit that you posted it.
And then I was like, "Why are you getting mad?" And he was like, "Cause that's mine, and how it came." And I was like, "Mind you, it's only been like 2 weeks since we started talking. Not even talking, like trying to get to know each other." And he was just getting mad. He was like telling me to delete it, and I was like, "Bruh." So then I think that same week that he got mad about that, that's when we went to LS. Remember? And I was getting ready, and he FaceTimed me. Well, he would always FaceTime me like every day in the morning and at night just to see what I was doing or whatever. And at that time, he was FaceTiming me, and I was getting ready. But in the morning, I had. Oh no! Remember, I posted the flyer to see if he would get mad, and he got mad. He's like, "You're not going there, can't talk again." I was like, "Yes, I am." I was like, "With the girls." And then he FaceTimed me, and he saw that I was getting ready. Mind you, he was at a coladero. So then he was like, "Where are you going?" And I was like, "Ellis." And he hung up, and I was like, "Oh." And he sent me. I don't know if we still have the messages, but he was basically saying like, "I don't understand why you're going now." He's like, "You're mine, que sabe qué," and I was like, mind you, we have not met in person. Second off, I don't even know how you found my Instagram or how or why I even answered your message in the first place. But I was like, whatever. So we get to Ella's. And then I don't know if this actually happened. Según, he fell off the horse. And he sent me a picture where he put an ice pack on his leg. And I was like, trying to make me feel bad.
He was guilt tripping the shit out of you.
And I was like, "Oh, what happened?" He's like, "Oh, I fell off the horse." He's like, "I think my knee's fucked or whatever." And I was like, "Are you gonna go to the hospital?" I don't think he said anything. Yeah, like de ahí no dijo nada. And then I remember it was like 11, 12. And he starts calling me like twice. And I was with Lisette and with somebody else. Not me exposing myself. But they saw that he was calling, and Lisette was like pointing at my phone, and I like, you do like that. And they were looking at the guy, and he just like rolled his eyes, and I was like, "What?" I was like, "Yo no te debo nada." And then when we left, me and Lisette were in my car, and then we called him or whatever. And he just kept telling, or no, after he called me, I didn't answer. And he was like, "Where are you?" And I was like, "Still here." And he's like, "Can you go home, please? Can't tell I can." I was like, "Yeah, ahorita me voy."
Like you were gonna be able to do something with his hurt leg.
Boy.
Okay.
And then after that, yeah, whatever. Well, every time I would go out, like he would yell at me. Like, we don't have a title.
You never met.
We've never met before. We barely started talking. You don't know anything about me. Like, why are you already wanting to claim me so bad? But when I called him out about being at the coladero, he was like, "Oh, he's like, is this socio? It's like it's a small thing or whatever." And I'm like, I was like, "You're halfway across the country, mind you." Some girls from Texas know him, and they were basically saying that he like pasado, like they would pass him around, or he would be with a bunch of girls.
No, what a whore.
So then, yeah, whatever. So then, okay, and then, I was at a rodeo. I think like a week or two before 4th of July weekend, and at the rodeo, his friend from Cali was there too. And I asked him, I was like, "Oh, I was like, you know, so and so," and he was like, "Oh yeah." He's like, "That weird ass fool," and I was like, "Why are you saying that?" So then le mandé video de él, de su amigo, and then he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna go to Chicago," and I was like, "When?" And he was like, "For 4th of July." And I was like, "Why?" And he's like, "So I can go spend time with you." So he says. And I was like, okay. Mind you, I was tipsy. So he's like sending me screenshots of flights that he was getting or which one he was going to get. And like, he was asking me like what hotel was closest to my house or whatever. And he's like, oh, and he booked the flight. So then he booked the flight, then he booked the hotel, whatever. So then I had to go pick him up from the airport. Picked him up. I feel like, I don't know, I just got like this weird feeling. As soon as he got in my car, I was like, this is going to be a shitty ass weekend. Yeah. I could already tell. So then, yeah, we're driving to the hotel. I should have just left it at somewhere. Like, so he booked the hotel. I think he said there was no more rooms or something that he couldn't book it there. So the second one that he booked, we went there. There was nobody at the check-in desk. Mind you, it was a tiny ass hotel with like 6 rooms. I was like, what the fuck? Okay. So we're sitting there because nobody's at the reception. So we're like, what the fuck do we do now? And he was like, well, let me find another one. So we ended up going to Holiday Inn in like Zurich. So we're driving over there. And then, but yeah, as soon as we got into the room, like he had the biggest attitude. And I was like, what the fuck? Mind you, it was 4th of July. It's like, we were going to go watch fireworks, whatever. So then he's like mad, like yelling at me for parking the car. And then I didn't get service because there was a shit ton of people everywhere. And he was like texting me because he was checking in and he was like, send me the license plate number. And he's like, hello. But I wasn't getting the messages. So how the fuck was I supposed to know? You know, entramos al cuarto. And then we went back outside for the fireworks. We were like, he was like standing behind my car. And I was like, I had the cajuela open. And I was inside. And I was like, what the fuck? I was like, this is how you're going to spend 4th of July? Yeah. So then the next day, we had, it was what? I think it was Friday. That was Friday, yeah. And we had planned to go to the city during the day and then come back in on tarde and go to the drive-in theater. And as soon as we woke up, I está acostado watching, what was he watching? Some movie. And I was like, I got up, I showered, and I got ready. And I was like, are we going? And he's like, I don't know. And then he like pulls out his laptop and starts working. And I'm like, dude. I was like, you're not going to tell me that I just got ready for no reason. And then she hit me up. Wait, hold on. I'm getting there. So then, well, this was before the movie. Because I thought we were still going to go to the movie. And I was like, oh, what time are we going to get out there? Because it starts at like 6. And I was like, we're going to get there early because se llena mucho. He's like, we'll probably leave here like at 5:30. And I was like, okay. So 5:30 comes around. This motherfucker is still in bed. And I was like, dude. And I was like, so I'm guessing we're not going? He's like, no, you're going to be mad. He's like, my boys want to come and see me. And I was like, I knew them. I was like, okay. I was like, they're going to come over here? He's like, yeah, they're going to pick me up. We're going to go eat. I'm like, I don't know. I was like, okay. I was like, so if you're going to go out, then I'm going to go out too. And then I messaged Mel. And I was like, this motherfucker's going to go out. I was like, where are we at? So then I went out with her. And I didn't get back to like, 3 in the morning? Yeah, because we went to, where did we go? We went to Real House. We were at my friend's house and then we went to Real House. And we went back to your friend's house. No, did we go somewhere? Yeah, we did. Yeah, right? Oh, sí, cierto. I fell asleep on the couch. And then I told Mel, I was like, dude, I have a feeling that this motherfucker is not going to open the door. Because I dropped her off. And I was like, if anything, if he doesn't open, I was like, I'm going to come back and get you. And we're going to come back and pick out the store until I get my stuff. Yeah. And she's like, yeah, I got you. So then luckily he opened the door. But same thing, like such bad energy. And I was like, dude, I shouldn't have freaking stayed here at all. And then Saturday he was going back and his flight was until in la noche, like at 8 or 9. Según él, we're going to go to the city, spend the day there, whatever. Checkout was at 11. So then he's like, it was like 9:30, 10. And he's like, call the front desk to see if we can get a late checkout. So I went, pensando que we're going to go to the city. And I'm calling the front desk and I was like, hi, I was wondering if we could do a late check-in or a late checkout. And he's like, or they put me on hold. And he's like, why the fuck are you answering the phone like that? I was like, what do you mean? I was like, how do you want me to answer the phone? And I'm sitting there on hold and I was like, dude, this man's gonna piss me the fuck off. He's like, yeah, you can't fucking say good morning. And I was like, so I hung up the phone and I went to go put my shoes on and I was gonna go downstairs to ask. He's like, where are you going? And I was like, It's like, oh, get a fucking late checkout. And he's like, why are you gonna go down there? He's like, they're gonna ask for me. He's like, the room's not under your name. And I was like, you know what? I was like, whatever. So I started packing my stuff. It was like 10:30, 10:40 at this point. And then yeah, it was like we had 10 minutes left, and then he gets up and starts packing his stuff, and I was like, I was so mad. So then yeah, no, we checked out whatever. We're sitting in my car for like 20 minutes, and I was like, so are we going to the city or what? And he's like, I don't know, are we? And I was like, sure. Mm. So then he's like, well, first you want to go to the bank because he had to get money out, and then he's like, let's go to McDonald's. So I go to McDonald's.
Bitch, money more than just fucking McDonald's.
No, he didn't get anything. No más era para él.
I know.
But I ordered whatever, and then we're driving to the window, and he's like, there you go again with no fucking manners. And I was like, I don't have manners? He's like, no. And he's like, I understand why you're in a bad mood. I was like, because of you. He's like, okay, if you're in a bad mood, then he's like, take me to the airport. I was like, I will. So I got the food, took his ass to the airport. He was there from 12 to fucking 8 at night.
You're better than me. I would have made it take a Uber.
And as soon
you're like, I don't got manners. Get the fuck out of my car.
I should have. But that goes right back to like being blindsided and thinking like, oh, like.
Well, not only that, but then he was guilt tripping you too, and he was love bombing the fuck out of you, and like, he showed way too many red flags like from the jump.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the thing too. I thought he was gonna act like how he acted in the beginning.
Yeah.
Mind you, it was fucking like a week that he was acting all normal.
Yeah.
And then when he flipped the switch, I was like, what did I get myself into?
That is crazy. No, I think I have one that relates to you're mine and no one else's. Same dude. We did we went to Blarney's.
Hey.
And I was there with like the whole group, you know, whatever. We're having a good time. Mind you, he didn't tell me he was going there. So like I had no idea, and I see him walk in. I was like, this right? Mm-hmm. So he sees me, and I think he panics because he didn't know I was gonna be there. Mm-hmm. He must have. Well, this will tie in a little bit later, but you know, basically he like messaged me. Like he didn't even come up to say hi to me, which is the crazy part. Like he like walked right past me, like he didn't fucking know me. Oh, yeah, I was so pissed. But then he had the audacity to text me and be like, you're mine and no one else's. I better not see you dancing with anybody else and da da da. And I was like, right, I was like, are you fucking kidding me? So I'm pissed at this point. Mind you, at this point we're like already like a good maybe a year or two into like the whole, you know, situationship. Mm-hmm. And so I give him the same energy back. But I think it kind of ties into when you're with the wrong person, they bring out that like toxic side of you, because he brought out like a very toxic side of me, because he, you know, he told me that, and I was like, well, same, because like I'll do some crazy shit if you, you know, you make me look stupid, right? Mm-hmm. And you know, whatever the event kept going, and he was with some girl. But he kept the whole time, yeah, and he kept making. But he was there with like his sister and like another friend, the friend that likes to spy on me, and so I just like didn't question it. But then I saw him with a girl, and like I kept messaging him like, "Are you with that bitch?" And like he wouldn't, like he'd be like, "What bitch?" Like he was just trying to deflect from the whole situation, mm-hmm. and I could clearly see him. And then I walked past him at some point, and he had his arm around her, and the girl had his arm around him. And I'm looking at him, and he sees me, and the moment he sees me pass, like he drops his arm, like I didn't just fucking see you, like, are you stupid? And so at that point, that's when I start losing my shit, and I have a little bit too much to drink, and I'm with the girls, and they're like, yeah, fuck that, you know, like, and I'm like, they're hyping me up too much, where I'm like, I'm about to go batshit crazy on this man, mm-hmm. And sure enough, I did. And le dije de lo que se iba a morir, like, I just went off on him in front of everybody. I did not give a shit who was around. I didn't care who heard me. I gave 0 fucks. I said what I needed to say. I called him out. I was like, how the fuck are you going to tell me that I'm yours and nobody else can have me? But then, like, what? You know? Mm-hmm. But it's the same thing. He wanted that control over me. and he wanted me to not be with anybody, but he could do whatever he wanted. And maybe it's my fault for allowing it to go on for that long, but also like he was an asshole for treating me that way. He shouldn't have gone that far. And like in that situation, like yo sufrí mucho. Like I really went through it with him because I really wanted it to work, or I really wanted him to see, for him to value me and give me my place, because I did stick around for so long. And when we did argue, like, I would tell him, like, I don't think you realize how much I care about you, da da da, like, you make me look stupid all the time. And then he would just kind of like throw in my face that, like, I like to go out and like things like that. And I'm like, I go out because you don't want to spend time with me. What the fuck you want me to do? Sit at home and fucking play checkers by myself? Like, are you dumb? And so it was a constant back and forth, but he would always guilt trip me into making me feel bad that like I was doing something wrong, when the whole time it was him. It was him being toxic, him having commitment issues, him not wanting to, I guess, take the next step. And I think back then I never understood. I mean, I think still to this day, I never understood why he did everything that he did. And I don't need to at this point.
Well, because you guys never had that conversation.
We never had a conversation. We never had closure. I think I can't remember what the last straw was, but I remember. Pause. Let me finish this up. But he just had such a grip on me. And I think the last straw for me was, I think it was the same girl, if I'm not, it was that same night, actually. The same day that he did all of that to me, that same night after I cussed him out in front of everybody and everything, he still had the audacity to blow up my phone because I was at an after party at a friend's house. He blew up my phone, was like, I'm gonna go pick you up. Like, what the fuck are you doing there? Like just being super toxic, and didn't want me where, like, with my friends, which didn't make any sense to me. What the fuck, da da da, like making me feel bad. And then I was like, obviously this is a person, I was like, oh, so am I gonna stay over? And he was like, no. And I'm like, why? And because he had the bitch there at his house.
So he still wanted to pick you up.
The bitch was sleeping in his bed and he wanted to come pick me up because he didn't want me out.
So what was he gonna do with you?
Oh. ¿Me iban a dejar a la puerta de mi casa o qué? Like, I am so blown that, like, I really dealt with that for so long. And that was, like,
wait, he told you that she was there?
Yes! He was so drunk that he was like, well, you can't stay here. I was like, why? And he's like, because she's sleeping right now. And I was like, estás bien, güey. Like, estás bien pendejo. Like, are you fucking kidding me? And, like,
dude, what a
he really took it out of me, where I was really toxic towards him. Like, I did pull up on him a few times when I knew he was out. Like, I remember my best friend Irene, shout out Irene, she told me, like, hey, he's here, pull up. And I pulled up, and that was the night I found out he was married, because the wife was there. And so, like, he brought out the crazy in me, but after that ended, and I was like, fuck that, I'm not dealing with that shit no more. After that ended, I really was like, I don't want to deal with this anymore. Like, I don't want to be crazy in love. I want to be calm in love. I want to be peaceful in love. And I've now, like I said, that I'm in a healthy relationship, I really question, like, why I put up everything. Like, that's some crazy shit to put up with for 2 years. Yeah. Like, that's a lot of shit.
I feel like deep down inside you had the hope, like, oh, maybe he'll change. Maybe he'll realize, like, this is actually what he wants, and like eventually give you the title. But I mean, uno se cansa.
Se cansa, yeah.
The same thing every day.
Yeah. I think we make excuses for the toxic behavior because we've learned that. But then I fear, at least for us, we grew up with it in the sense of like novelas and TV shows or relationships we've seen in person, our parents, things like that. But for these younger girls, social media is so big for them.
Oh yeah.
It's huge. And seeing this toxicness be glamorized on all social media platforms, it's scary because these young girls are going to think that that's okay, that they should be treated that way.
And it's
that
expected
and
and normal.
yeah, like if he's jealous of me or he does X, Y, and Z, it's because he loves me. Or I've seen this on TikTok. So is that how a man should treat me? And it's scary to think about how it's not only affecting like us as adults but the younger generation because social media is so big for them. It's huge. I think people, as content creators, as adults in the society, as people trying to just like put a positive message out there, we really have to be self-aware, um, of not glamorizing or make it seem like those actions are okay because it's not. We really have to be held accountable, and um the especially big content creators, um their their platform, use it for something positive versus putting out those kind of examples into the world.
Yeah.
And last but not least,
Night.
last but not least, we're gonna talk about setting boundaries and being able to either leave a toxic relationship, situationship, friendship, whatever the case may be. Like, we want to talk about how to implement those things into your daily life in relationship and dating, and to not allow those things. I think the first one will be, you have to understand that healing begins when you stop romanticizing dysfunction. So I think it goes back to like, you just have to realize that dysfunction isn't good. Stop making it seem like it's, you know, the most glamorized things. I mean, we were just talking about like couples on TikTok that we've seen that are known for yelling at each other and, being toxic and all these things, and they get views and likes, and you have to realize that's not normal.
No.
Because that's just social media. You don't know what's going on behind closed doors. They're probably like a super loving couple and they're putting on a show for social media, making it seem like that's not the case. But setting boundaries. Number one, name the behavior. Call it what it is. It's not passionate but manipulative.
See, and then when you do call out the behavior, don't let them
manipulate you into thinking it isn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. What she said.
I'm trying to think of another word, but yeah.
Yeah.
Next one is stop feeding the cycle. Don't engage in drama for attention or validation. People thrive off of that.
A lot of people thrive off the drama. They try to start things for
a reaction. Yeah, to get a reaction.
They won't ever take accountability for what drove you to react the way that you did. Number 3, protect your peace. It's okay to walk away from people who thrive on chaos. I'm a big believer. I am a big believer in protecting your peace. I'm huge. It took me a long time to be okay with leaving people behind and being
Oh
like,
yeah.
like it took me a really long time because before um I was surrounded by drama like all the fucking time. And I didn't know any better. And now that I'm at such a peaceful place in my life with peace, like peaceful relationship, good friendships, good people around me, I am protecting that shit at all costs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm currently well, like for I feel like the past year,
Mm-hmm.
I've been slowly getting into it. Right now, what to like? I'll just right now just go on Instagram and start removing people.
Mm-hmm.
Just like, what do I get from having drama? It's not going to benefit me in any way.
Yeah. Next one.
Next one is relearn what love looks like through therapy, healthy friendships, and media that shows emotional maturity. See,
Yes. It's hard. It's a process. Relearning um, what love looks like is extremely difficult. And I can go by personal experience.
mm-hmm.
I think the first few months of my relationship, I struggled a lot and I cried a lot. And it was a very overwhelming feeling of, it was very uh, new to me and it was very unfamiliar. And I did a lot of therapy. I did a lot of self-reflection um, because you're learning that everything that, or all the ways that you were treated in the past was never the correct way.
Mm-hmm.
And because it's all new, it's a very scary feeling and it's very overwhelming. And it made me very emotional. I think the
Yeah.
first few months of my relationship, I cried a lot. And it wasn't crying in like a bad sense. It was crying in the, I didn't know how to handle so much love and happiness because I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't used to it.
Yeah, you feel like you didn't deserve it.
Yeah, I definitely felt like I didn't deserve it. I felt like he was too good or he was doing too much for me when really he was doing a lot for me, but it wasn't like, I wouldn't say nothing that out of the ordinary. I think I just was used to literally bare minimum, if not nothing.
Mm-hmm. Less than
Less than
fucking
bare
bare
minimum.
minimum.
And when someone came and you know showed me all the right things, as simple as coming to my house to pick me up, opening the door for me, you know paying for meals, planning dates, like the simple things that are like bare minimum, for me were very overwhelming. And I think if there's anyone out there that's going through something like this or in a toxic relationship or trying to get out of that cycle and rebuild after a toxic relationship, give yourself grace.
Mm-hmm.
Be patient with yourself, be vulnerable, but overall I think just patience is like the big thing,
Yeah.
because you're relearning something from scratch pretty much.
You just gotta take it one day at a time.
hmm And then the last one is unfollow the fantasy. Um, less curate your content. Less toxic humor, more conscious, empowering voices.
Ah, but the toxic TikToks are funny.
I mean, they are funny, whatever, but I think that kind of feeds into it. I will say that once I started kind of liking things that are more like positivity or kind of what I'm looking for in my future, like right now I see a lot of things of like moving out, starting, like
Mm-hmm.
those type of things. And that's kind of like, what's been coming up on my feed.
Like your algorithm.
Yeah, and I think it's so positive for me because that's kind of like my next step
Mm-hmm.
is, and it's been very motivating for me because it's making me want to take the right steps
Mm-hmm.
to get to that, because I want that to be me. Like I want that next step to happen. And I think that's kind of a way that I've kind of gotten out of that toxicness, is making sure that what I'm surrounded with is positive, whether it be social media, books I'm reading, all those things.
Sí.
¿Y tú? You're
Yo?
still toxic, huh?
No, I don't know. Like, my feed is like all over the place. Mm-hmm. There's some like toxic like TikToks, but I don't take it like serious.
Yeah.
De vez en cuando se la mando a alguien.
She's still working on it.
No, right now my free page is out. Thank you, and I'm not complaining.
That's true. That's true. And then the last thing is an empowerment reminder. You don't need to be toxic to be interesting. You don't need chaos to feel alive, and you don't need drama to prove your worth.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's right.
Mm-hmm. I think we really just wanted this podcast to kind of open people's eyes and like toxic cycles and things that we're seeing on social media and how it can affect people, not only young, old, whoever is going through situations like that, and people around them as well. Just be more conscious of what you're doing.
Put yourself first.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think this is. There she goes. Well, this is episode 2. We hope you like it.
Even though we exposed ourselves a little bit today.
Yeah. There's a lot on here.
If the shoe fits, wear it.
Literally. This, like I said, this is going to be part 1 of, we will be having a special guest for our next one. Surprise. We're very excited. We will be attempting to post every other week. Attempting.
Don't
so
quote us.
we're trying every other week.
Sally, don't quote us.
Every other week, because we got yelled at for only wanting to post like once a month. But anyways, we're going to try to post every other week. We really appreciate everyone that has been supporting us, that has been listening, giving us feedback. We take everything into consideration, and we appreciate every single one of you guys.
So you guys a big old kiss.
And we'll be back for episode 3.
Toodles.
Bye.